All right, we are live and it's training camp week 1, maybe a little bit more than week 1, but it's time to
One and
just
a half.
kind of see what we've seen, talk about what we've seen so far and things that have stood out to us. And I think it's a good time to reset and really look at a couple players. And we want to start with
There you go.
Jamar Jefferson, the running back, 7th round pick, a guy that we were really excited about when he was drafted, and then kind of got out there a little bit, but wasn't able to. But then Dan Campbell couldn't help but talk about him. He was asked about him. They're like, "Hey, what do you think about him?" He's like,
Okay.
"Well, I don't want to talk about him because he's like, if I give guys flowers, they end up having a bad game the next game or the next practice. They have, but he's awesome." And he's like, he's doing great. I love where he's at. And he just couldn't help but say really good things about him. So we'll dive more
Just too
into that.
excited.
Yeah, in just a second. But what do you think about? I mean, I've forgotten about this guy, basically, and I've kind of written him off. Where are you at with Jefferson? And when you hear this, where were you at with it?
Yeah, where I'm at with Jefferson is he would have made the team 2 years ago if he didn't get hurt. And I mean, he did make the team, right? And then he would have made the team last year because I think 2 years ago he's a rookie. And then he would have made the team last year, but same thing. It's like every time he gets his wheels going and he starts showing some excitement and he gets us excited about what he's going to do, he gets hurt.
Yes.
And I just wonder what the reason for that is. I have a couple thoughts and I'll share those later in this video. But when I hear he might make the team, my thought process is, well, then we're going to have to keep 5 running backs.
Oh yeah.
And maybe we do. Maybe
And
we do. Maybe we keep 5 running backs and we keep more linebackers because of the new kickoffs.
yeah,
You know?
exactly. And that's where I'm curious about this. And here's real quick what Dan Campbell said. He's like, I don't want to
Sweet.
answer it because it feels like the same thing. I say something about a guy and it's the kiss of death because the next practice, and then he just stopped and he's like, Jefferson's in a really good place. He's in a really, really good place. And that next practice, he had two touchdowns, including a 50-yard run against the first team defense. And this was this full go practice where they were really like scrimmaging. And he beat star defensive back Brian Branch to the edge before turning it upfield and finding daylight.
The same Jamar Jefferson that could barely run a 4.6? That one?
Now we've got now Craig Reynolds. I'm just fully convinced Craig Reynolds doesn't make the team now.
It's just gone. See ya.
See ya. So what is
He's been shockingly reliable and healthy. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. You're not explosive enough and we're going to cut you. And so I don't know, but when you see what a dynamic third running back would do, we have 2 dynamic running backs. Now a third one is, where does your mind go when you hear that?
I think where my mind goes is it was supposed to be Sione Vaki, but he wasn't going to be ready this year anyway. So who's going to come up and take the load as the third running back? You know, last year, don't get me wrong, we all loved Craig Reynolds against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? The block and where he came from, the regular season game when they were wearing the creamsicles and he runs past St. Brown, makes a block. St. Brown gets a touchdown. Love Craig Reynolds. And then wasn't it against the Bucks again that he was accidentally in on a goal line play and got a touchdown? So like he's a guy that you trust. And so I love trusting him, but here's what I don't trust about Craig Reynolds. And I don't want to make this a Craig Reynolds bash fest because I love me some Craig Reynolds. He has a really good name. Don't you think, Chris?
Yeah.
But at the same time, is he the guy that you trust to be your number 1 running back if another guy's hurt?
Right.
Is he able to be a change of pace back for Montgomery or Gibbs? Like, that's the problem with him. Like, if Jamar Jefferson's showing the ability to have a 50-yard touchdown against our first team defense, Craig Reynolds doesn't have that ability. No. And so I do like the upside.
Absolutely. And this is where it starts getting really fun, I think, because we all know of our top line guys, the St. Browns, the Hutchinsons, those blue chippers, and we got to have them, and they've got to be great. Penei Sewell, Sam Laporta. Again, luckily the list goes on and on. But what about those guys that are going to fill out the depth of the team, and really those guys that are going from second year to third, or I think in his case, maybe third to fourth year? Where can they make the jump that we really need to round out the roster and be a full or be a Super Bowl contending team? And you look at the depth chart, he's not even up here. And
Yeah,
so I think
which is
Craig
nuts,
Reynolds,
right?
yeah, and I love what you said. Craig Reynolds, I've been saying this, he's a great story and he
I
helped us
love
when we
Craig.
needed him and he was there when we needed him. Like in that 2021 season and like it's like, man, salute you. Thank you for your service, but if you got an explosive running back that can, it's just another element because again, Dave Montgomery, Jamar Gibbs, they give us that. But man, what an awesome you said, I think at the end, maybe didn't, but ceiling. That's what we need. We need the highest ceiling. It's worth taking a chance on a guy versus safe, reliable. It's like, are we going for the Super Bowl? Like we gotta get let's fill this roster with all of it we can do. So
Yep.
that's where
We
I'm
need
at.
to do the right thing.
Yep.
So I pulled up another one. This is our lads. Get ESPN out of here, right? He's still not there. Look at how far you have to go to find him. He's next to Jake Funk. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing. Like, this was our third running back. Oh, like when Campbell took over. This is our third running back. Like,
Unbelievable. Yep.
what are we even talking about right now? So,
No, and I love you pulled that up. You can pull that. Can you pull that back
you want
up
it
one
back?
more time? Is
Good thing I didn't delete it.
you look at Zonovan Knight is somebody that was really strong for us. Basically, you look at this roster, and
So deep.
again, trying not to be homers because it's easy for us to start looking at all the depth and be like, man, Zonovan Knight again. Is he? Do you want him to be your starting running back? No, but you just start looking at Jefferson, Vaki's this guy that we've drafted, Craig Reynolds, solid. This depth is so much more than we've had. And again, you can't get too excited about depth because it's 53-man roster. So you got 11 on offense, 11 on defense. You go too deep. Now you've got that's 44 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 44 guys, a few specialists that leaves a few more guys. So it's really too deep. And so you don't want to get too crazy and talking about depth, but it's so cool to see the team really filled out going into training camp. We're in training camp and then cutting down 90, not all of them are really good, but what if you cut down like what if 80 are like good? And we're now going to be the team that other teams are poaching. Like who did the Lions cut? Because they're good and they couldn't make the Lions because the Lions are really talented. Let's go get them. That's
right.
What's
like I look all over this place and we'll talk about it later in another video, right? Like we're going to talk about the depth of the offensive line and we're going to go there. But when you look at this running back room, one of these guys, Reynolds, Knight, and Jefferson are going to get cut. And that guy is going to get picked up by another team.
Yeah.
Like guaranteed. Funk probably will get picked up by another team. Like here's the thing. We have a 1-2 punch with Gibbs and Montgomery. Most teams, their backup running back room is guys like Craig Reynolds, Zonovan Knight. And that's just, and it's third string for us. And you need to have 4 or 5 deep in the running back room. You just do. You just do. But we're not going to carry a fullback this year. So that's where that goes. There's room for 5.
Yeah, it's just really cool. And so this Jefferson thing's wild to me because he's just that 7th round guy you're rooting for, back when we picked him up and he showed some flashes a little bit, but overall been injured. And then forgot he was on the team because it's like, oh, see ya. We've got 2 really good running backs. So it's just cool. It's just cool to see the depth and man, what an awesome thing if we could have an explosive third string running back type of thing. Like, because again, running back, I love the idea of keeping everybody fresh and just who cares if you play, I don't know. It's just not about the volume anymore. It's about, hey, a fresh running backs keeps coming in and out. It's like, let's go. That's awesome.
And if you have a better third running back, it allows you to play Gibbs and Montgomery on the field more at the same time because you can take them both out. I know that's something nobody ever thinks about because, everybody's like, why aren't Gibbs and Montgomery on the field together more? Because playing running back's really tiring. And if you put them on the field together 2 plays in a row, who's playing the third play?
Right.
Like that's just how it gets difficult. So I like where we're at in our running back room. I feel really solid, but I want to change gears here to talk about the offensive line, who they're running behind. Can we change gears for a second?
Let's do it.
All right. So the Detroit Lions offensive line. Chris, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. All right. It's a 2-parter. Number 1, do we have the best offensive line in the NFL? And number 2, is depth on our offensive line a problem, a weakness, or a strength?
Ooh. So number one, I think we do have the best offensive line. I see that through multiple sources too. And I like PFF. I just do
Sure.
when it comes to offensive line because you can't eyeball that as well as you can see a guy running down and Kelvin Johnson. He's good. I can see that. I can't tell what a guard's doing all the time, but PFF can pick that up and they
Yes,
talk
they
about
can.
pressures and they talk about a lot of things. So I love PFF for offensive line. PFF ranks them number one because we have a blue chip top center and tackle and a really
Yep.
good tackle. So we got
Yes.
three really good players. We've got one of the most consistent guys ever in Zeitler. And then, Graham Glasgow just played well last year. He just did.
Just a top 10 guard last year. No big deal.
So that our offensive line's fully set. Now, with that, I think the depth is a definite concern. One of the things that is
I'll throw up
bad.
the depth here for everybody to look at.
Yeah, the depth's bad because one of the big guys we were really excited about was Christian Mahogany. And I don't know, let us know in the comments if you know what's going on, but he's got like this mysterious illness, so he just hasn't been out there. And Dan Campbell was asked, "Is this a concern?" And he's like, "Yeah, just because he's not practicing." And I don't don't know fully. I don't think it's like a long-term thing, but he basically has missed a bunch of practice. So you take him out, and that interior offensive line is where I'm concerned because that's just where injuries pile up. That's where Frank Ragnow, because what's going to happen with him? Graham's got to switch in. So the answer to your questions, I do think it's a concern right now. What about you?
Yeah, I wasn't concerned. And then, like you said, Christian Mahogany's just sick. And we don't know what's going on. And we've seen this before with rookies. If they don't get into camp, every week they miss of camp is like missing 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season. So if you miss 4 weeks of training camp, you're not ready to go till like week 8 of the regular season if you're a rookie, if you're lucky by then. Right? Like, I mean, we saw what happened to JMO. He's not the only one, but we saw what happened to JMO and how it stunted his growth. Like, we saw what happened to Levi Onwuzurike when he was hurt. Like, we've seen this with rookies before. All right, let's go to the tight end position. All right, James Mitchell. Is he even going to make the team this year?
Man.
He missed his first training camp. He never got traction. And Christian Mahogany, we walk in here and it's like, oh, he's a 6th round pick, but all of us felt like, yep, guaranteed he's the starting guard of the future. Like, we just had that good feeling about him, kind of like we did about Rodrigo, right? Kind of like we did about St. Brown. We've had different guys like this, but if he's not playing, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, so we need to keep him on the team. And we're not going to take a 4th round pick on Giovanni Manu and then not keep him.
Right.
But he's not ready to play.
Right.
He's not ready to play. So now you're going into the season, and who's the other 2 that you're keeping? Now you have to keep 9 or 10, which you don't want to keep 10 offensive linemen. Colby Sorsdahl, is he ready to play swing tackle? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, Michael Neese is the only guy other than Glasgow who can back up Frank Ragnow at the center position. All right. Other than, a couple of unrestricted free agents. So undrafted free agents. Sorry. And it's just like, there is some concern. That's what I'm most looking forward to watching for the first preseason game on Thursday is what can our offensive backup line do? Because that's all that's going to play.
Absolutely. And no, that's a good point. And let us know in the comments, do you watch the preseason games? Because I know that seems you're really excited at first. You're just like, it's football. And then it's like, oh shoot, no one's out there. And it gets it's a bummer. But I know you do. I know you like watching different players and you're watching things. Yeah. I'm
a nerd, man.
I try to, and it's just too hard for me. But anyway, it's easier now, of course, because you're watching some of these things and you're watching, man, what about the offensive line? What James Mitchell, what about the running backs? Like, there is some depth. We have good depth, but we also have on our most important positions, offensive line, we don't have the depth right now. And that is
no.
And again, I think if you and I did a little exercise and we went through and just said, all right, what are our top 3 concerns? Let us know in the comments there. What are our top 3 concerns? I think offensive line depth is one, for sure. And again, this is like great because we're nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah, we are.
And we don't have like
best offensive line unit in the NFL, and we're nitpicking. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. We're like trying to find, and it's like, but But man, that is our team. Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes said, "This is our team, our
Mhm.
offensive line. It's what we're going to build around." And it's like, well, I get that, and I we have the best offensive line, but man, it's a big time drop off. So I'm a little, I don't know. I'm concerned because and everyone gets on me, and I appreciate you getting on me. I always talk about injuries, not too much, but I'm always
You're
like,
Mr. Injury Guy. Yeah,
Frank.
because you've been hurt by the Lions of past.
Yes, and Frank,
We
love the guy, but I mean, he literally, I'm pretty sure, has like literally three working toes on one foot. He's got, we can go through
True.
all his
True.
injuries. He's a warrior. He shouldn't even be out there, but he's like, I'm out there. So again, to think that he's just going to go 17, 20 games. So we're going to have some shifting around. So it's a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit of a concern. And then, like I said, it's a concern on how you switch it around. Like, if you're just going to keep 9 off the bat, it's like, all right, great. You keep, those 4 or 5 offensive linemen, then you keep Manu, Iwosika, Mahogany, Sorsdahl. I don't feel that terrible about it. You're good to go. But if Mahogany's not ready to play, or you keep Manu, Michael Neese, all right, I'll sorry, that's yours. You want to throw that? That's fine. All right. So then you can go. I put yours up there if you can go down to the line.
Oh, yeah.
But like all of a
Getting there.
sudden, everything is different. Like everything is different. Like I could see them keeping, and it's funny the difference in the way the offensive lines are represented, even in the depth chart. Like the difference between ESPN and our lads, it just shows you that the depth, like people don't even know. Like
Yes.
people don't even know. On the center position, they don't even have Michael Neese in there. Where is he? Right. And on
Always.
our lads, he's number 2. But you got an
Mhm.
undrafted free agent as the backup at center. So Frank's got to stay healthy. If Frank and Graham Glasgow get hurt for any stretch of time, we could be in serious trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And
Serious trouble, because who else is going to play the center position?
absolutely. And last thing I'll say on this real quick is someone just put, yeah, I'll be watching preseason for Hendon Hooker. And it's like, yeah, okay, you got me.
Yeah,
I will be in for that one.
absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So cool. That's awesome. Or preseason game with a rookie quarterback, exciting rookie quarterback. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Is JMO going to play in the preseason?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think so, but that'd be
Because
fun
he
to
is
watch.
a definite starter now. So
Yeah.
why play him? Right.
Right.
But I am excited to see the preseason because all those wide receivers that are competing for that third wide receiver spot, right? Donovan Peoples Jones, Doris Fountain, right? Maurice Alexander, Khalif Raymond. I mean, Raymond's on the team, right? He might not even play much, but those guys that are playing for the other outside position, like I'm excited to see if they got any juice. When I hear Doris Fountain running a post route and beating Iffy deep, like didn't know he had those wheels in him. Just like I didn't know Jamar Jefferson had those wheels to get a 50-yard touchdown run. This is fantastic. I'm excited to see if the talent is real against other teams, even in the backups. I want to know.
You nailed it. And I'm the depth is crazy because again, you just nailed it. Iffy Melifonwu is a great example of the depth that we do have, because we just talked about bad depth on the offensive line. Iffy Melifonwu getting just basically kicked to the bench is an example of good depth. So
Yep.
we have good depth on this team, but yes, that is a concern offensive line for sure, but we'll be watching in preseason.
Yeah. All right. Ready to switch it up?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go from depth to the starters. A Detroit Lion has been called out by another player, and not in a bad way. Not what you're thinking. It's not bad at all. Amon-Ra St. Brown has issued a challenge to Jahmyr Gibbs. Are you ready for it, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
All right. He has gone on Friday on ESPN's with Eric Woodyard, revealed a challenge to Gibbs from Lions wide receiver St. Brown. If Gibbs gets 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season, St. Brown will buy Gibbs anything that he wants. So I guess my question is, what would you ask for?
Yeah, that's right. Well,
because it's so easy to do.
It's so funny because so he wants, say that again. They both have to get no. I thought one had to get
Gibbs
1,000 yards
himself needs to get 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. And I know what you're thinking. Is that even possible?
Mm-hmm.
It's been done 3 times.
Oh my gosh. Who do you know who or no?
I do. Of course I do. All right. Roger Craig in 1985 for the San Francisco 49ers. He ran for 1,050 yards and caught 1,016 yards.
Wow.
All right. I bet you could even guess the next 2 names. Just think of one of them's playing right now.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Oh, great guess. No.
But Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey, absolutely. Christian McCaffrey in 2019 for the Panthers had 1,005 receiving yards along with 1,387 rushing yards.
Ooh, what year was the other guy?
The other guy was 1999.
Oh, geez.
He reinvented the running back position. He was the guy that was like,
Marshall
you know what?
Faulk.
There it is. Thank you so much. Most yards from scrimmage, I believe, in a season. 1,381 rushing yards with 1,048 rushing yards first, receiving yards second.
Awesome. So, that was fun. We got to do that more often.
Little fun stats.
Little fun stats. So, what's cool about that is you hear those names. I don't know enough about Roger Craig. Again, another great name. The Craig name is just, it's everywhere. The more you
look, people with the name Craig, it means something. It's different. It's a sign of class. It's a sign of integrity, and it's a sign of extreme athleticism.
But don't forget about Craig's List. It's also got some black eyes out there. Craig's List.
Yeah, but it's also a fun place for kids. Craig's Cruisers.
That's true. It's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on for an obscure name.
I would say if you're in company with like you said, it's just one of those things like Marshall Faulk, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I didn't really believe in Christian McCaffrey, but it's like, okay, yep, he is good, so that's cool.
Okay.
So if he can do that, absolutely. I would, just to answer your question really quick, if I was able to do that and I was able to ask somebody for anything, I don't know. It's like too much pressure. I think I would just ask for cash, just a nice, solid, enough where he would give it to you, but it's also pretty hefty. It's like,
what's my gift? I would like cash. Thank you.
Can you just give me $50K? I mean, seriously.
Jameer Gibbs said, I'm going to make him buy me a house.
Oh,
it's a thing. It's one thing. It's a house, right?
Yes.
So he said, I'm going to make him buy a house. In case you're wondering, last year, Jameer Gibbs had 945 yards rushing. So he almost got it rushing, and he had 52 receptions for a whopping 316 yards receiving.
Oh, okay. So the receptions is going to be a lot harder.
He has a long ways to go. I know he was working in the off season, trying really hard to get his route tree more advanced. They talk about how he's been even working on that in the beginning of training camp. They're really trying to get him out there. I think that's part of the reason the team felt kind of comfortable letting Josh Reynolds walk, is because they felt like Jameer Gibbs can be an additional weapon as a running back, whether he lines up in the slot. I don't think you'll see that very much, but running routes out of the backfield, it could be really, really good for him.
Okay.
Could be really good.
Dude, it's crazy how important this is. The more I think about it, because you're right, this coming out of the backfield, again, another weapon, but we need, it would be really nice. And we haven't had that. And, I think about like Theo Riddick. Remember how it was like, he was such a crutch / great thing because he was always coming out of the backfield, always catching it. But there is something about, man, getting the ball to a running back, especially Jameer Gibbs, in a different position, is like, yeah, please do that. Like he's so exciting and dynamic. So again, just all right, now he has the ball and he's in a different spot and then let him go is, yeah.
Well, and then you think about it. We always talk about 3 levels, right? Short, intermediate, and deep. When you have these guys for the Lions, there's 4 players. It's almost 4 levels, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can have Gibbs behind the line of scrimmage, short. You have Laporta, short and intermediate. You have St. Brown, who can go short, intermediate, or deep. And then you have Jameson Williams, who thrives intermediate, deep. And so you have all these guys that are stretching different parts of the field, and you can understand why this offense can be so dynamic. They have surrounded the pieces around Goff that you don't need a dynamic quarterback in order to be an extremely dynamic offense. And I think that's the thing that's amazing to me. But here's the truth. Catching the ball last year, he was okay. He wasn't great. Like, he didn't do a lot with it. That's where his game has to improve. I think he was better running the football, Jamar Gibbs, than any of us thought he would be. We all knew he'd be a pretty good runner. We didn't know he'd run with the power that he ran with. We knew he'd be fast. We didn't know he'd look that fast. But then we also all thought that he'd be like this polished, crisp route runner with great hands, almost like a wide receiver out of the backfield. He wasn't that. He was a good receiving back out of the backfield. But he was nowhere near like that Marshall Faulk, that Christian McCaffrey, these guys that have just been unbelievable catchers of the football out of the backfield, Austin Eckler, stuff like that.
Austin Eckler. And that's what
I know it's weird to add that.
But that's to your point. Only 5 guys have gotten 1,000 yards in a season. It's very difficult.
Imagine that. Like, look at that. Eckler hasn't even had 1,000 yards receiving, and that's just what he did. He had 92 catches that year. Like, I mean,
90. Right.
Look at McCaffrey at 5 in 2019. They both did it in 2019. McCaffrey had 116 catches. Is that the catches mark?
Yes.
Receptions? That's ridiculous.
Where
was he?
That is ridiculous. Yeah. So you look at like Marshall Faulk, this stat line makes sense. This one doesn't make any sense. 1958. We're not even going to count that. 51 receptions. And he's like, no problem. Just 21 yards a catch.
This needs to be known. 2019, Christian McCaffrey had the second most catches in the NFL that year.
Dude.
So it was the year that Michael Thomas set the record for most catches in a season with 149. Christian McCaffrey was second.
Oh my gosh. Even Le'Veon Bell down here. I mean, there's some bigger backs, but I mean, man.
Absolutely.
Kamara did it quite a few, or did it in 2017. Marshall Faulk did it quite a few times. So the top 25. Unbelievable.
Like, unbelievable. And think about what that offense did with Kurt Warner. Was Kurt Warner more mobile than Jared Goff? No. Right. And like, that was the most dynamic offense we had ever seen.
Yeah. So that 1,000-yard receiving is tough. But dude, even if he gets 600 yards, it would be like, let's go. So yeah, cool. I love the bet, but it's also like, I just love the idea of him coming out. Like you said, the levels are all there. We got everything covered on the offensive side. It's crazy.
Everything. All right, dude, it's exciting to talk about, and we'll talk to other people about what they're most excited for at the end of this. But it's time to switch into yet another topic.
Do it.
All right, let's talk about the defensive side of the football right now. Let's talk about a rookie that is making a name for himself now that the pads have come on, and he is making a name for himself with one word. Chris, would you have any idea what that word would be if it's a Dan Campbell football team? What factor does he have? Do you know?
Grit.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of grit. All right. Mekhi Wingo is showing off that he has grit. All right. Let me pause this commercial over on the side. Nobody needs to see that. All right. He has this grit factor. We knew that he might have it coming out of LSU. We knew that he might have it, but he is showing to be even more intense than I think we all thought. So let's just give a little background on who this guy is. He got number 18 at LSU, which is a special number. All right. We're in Michigan land over here, right? And Michigan State. I understand that. I'm just not going to talk about Michigan State. Number 18 for LSU is kind of like number 98 for Michigan, or number 1. I mean, it holds a number 2, right? It holds something special, and you don't just give it to anyone. You give it to the leader, to a captain. Did you know that Mekhi Wingo was the only player in LSU history to wear number 18 that transferred into the program?
Didn't know that.
That's how quickly he became a leader on this team, which I think is really, really cool. And he got hurt in the middle of the season and worked his butt off to get back for a team's bowl game that doesn't matter. Knowing that he was going into the NFL draft, didn't care. All right. And here's what he said. It was really simple. All right. He said, I felt like I owed it to myself and to my team. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about a guy that is going to put his body on the line for his college team? Imagine what he'll do for his pro team when he's being paid.
Yep. And that's interesting what you said, because I love guys that just want to be out there. Like they just want to. And so you nailed it. This guy, I mean, his freshman year, and that's what I look at with these guys, just because like I want to see, are you the man right out of the gates? And so his freshman year at Missouri, he played in 11 games. He had 27 tackles, a sack, he had a pick and returned it for a touchdown. So he's athletic. He's got stuff. I mean, he's undersized. And I don't know. I'm fascinated with the undersized D lineman because I think we all want to talk about Aaron Donald, even though Aaron Donald like wasn't undersized. I mean, I get he was, but he was just like he was different. So right, you're like, man, did we just find the next Aaron Donald? Obviously, we didn't. But at the same time, what do we have here? What if we have that explosive D lineman that could do something? So to hear that he's got good things out of camp, it's like that's what we're talking about. And the pads are coming on. We've been talking about depth. We need that depth at D line so bad, just because it's just that important. And it's great to hear that he's doing things.
Yeah, he's doing things. And you talk about what is his athleticism like, right? And his explosion, his quickness is pretty remarkable, right? It's pretty remarkable. When you talk about bench press, I'd like to see a little bit more out of the bench from a short-armed guy like him. I really would like to see more out of the bench. But there are a lot of things that he does that are really, really well. And he absolutely does have the athletic ability to compete at an NFL level. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm obsessed with RAS, right? I don't view it as this is what's going to happen. I just view it as, do you have the athleticism to at least compete at the NFL level?
That's
Is
right.
the floor there, right? And then you can figure out with the way in which you play, you can figure out with your personality and how hard you're willing to put in work, whether or not that athleticism is going to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
It's great. And here's the good news about Wingo. He's playing next to Aleem McNeil. And by the way, can we just take a second to talk about Aleem McNeil? Like, have you heard one bad thing about this man coming out of training camp?
No.
All I'm hearing is that whoever's playing next to him is having great practices simply because Aleem McNeil is creating so much havoc in the interior that the other defensive tackles left with one-on-one opportunities, and they're all taking advantage of them. Whether it's Levon Uzurike, whether it's Mekhi Wingo, it doesn't matter. Like, they're all taking advantage of it. Even Agude, like all these guys that it's like, no, they don't have a chance to make the roster. They're dominating because McNeil's so good. And Wingo talked about how McNeil is teaching him how to take on double teams and how to work different techniques, and watching him how to do it with shorter arms and being a shorter player, because McNeil's not a really tall guy either.
Right. Yeah.
It's a decent person to learn from.
Aleem is going to be, he's another one. I was just talking about it. Like, you look at these guys going from first year to second year to third year, and to see those jumps. And I think that's what has me most excited. It's not necessarily the new guys that we have. It's these really good players that we already have that are taking these next jump in their progression. And so to see Aleem McNeil dominating, it's crazy. And I'm a little surprised, just because I thought he played well last year. And I thought, man, if he can just be that again, that'd be awesome. Yeah. But I mean, even Ben Johnson was asked about the running game. He's like, hey, what do you think about the running game so far? And he said that what I think is that our defense is really good. And I'm like, what? And he said that for the first time in the 4 years he's been here, 3-4 years, that the defense is getting stops behind the line, really disruptive. And it's like, yeah, and our run defense was good last year. So it kind of makes me think, man, our run defense is going to be really good. We don't have to have so many resources up to stop the run, because I know we always want to do that. We can protect the pass now. So Aleem McNeil makes a lot of things go for us, and it's going to be huge.
And with how good he played last year, our run defense was phenomenal last year. I think a lot of times we had to commit an extra player, but we really did commit well to stopping the run. And what if we can just be multiple out of a base set? How cool would that be? Like, you don't know where the blitz is coming from. You don't know what it's going to look like, because we look like we're in a base package all the time, because we have players who can actually play their position at a high level. Yeah. Like, how nice would that be? And Aleem McNeil, the only thing I worry about is that he's going to play so good that he's going to price himself out of a contract extension. Like, that's why we need to go get him signed right now. I don't know if you heard, Brad Holmes actually went out and talked about that. Brad Holmes went out and said, after they signed Taylor Decker to a 3-year, $60 million contract, he flat out said Aleem McNeil's next. Like, we got to take care of Aleem next. And it's just like, who actually says that out loud?
Right.
Like, Nobody is that honest. And that's what I absolutely love about this team. I talked about it in a video earlier. They went and actually told Graham Glasgow that there was a good possibility he'd be moved to left guard before they re-signed him. How easy would it be to re-sign him at a discount rate and then be like, "Oh, by the way, you're moving to left guard." That's what most NFL teams do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they told him. They take care of Decker. And by the way, with Decker, I think it's only like 36 of the 60 million guaranteed. That is not going to hamstring us, that contract.
No,
And so
same
we
thing
just
with same thing with Decker. That Decker's like, what are we doing? He went
yeah,
to the coach and said, "Are you gonna resign me or what? What's going on? I just would like to know." Like, and I get that. And Dan Campbell's like, "Well, we're just you've had surgery, so we're making sure you can move around." And like so honest with them. And Dan Campbell even said, like, I can't reveal everything, which I get that. But also, man, what's so cool and that's the thing. It's like you're gonna tell me, and this is what I believe. When a team's really humming, you gotta have the talent. But when the team is playing hard for and like with the coach, it's not the coach is telling you what to do, and it's like, all right, let's
yeah.
go win, guys. Out here, it's like, no, we want to win for that guy because he's helped me, and vice
Yeah.
versa. It's like, man, that's pretty cool. So
So
that's awesome.
you've asked this question. This is good. And I love exactly what you're saying. You nailed it. Like this is just most teams don't do this. And it's just so good to see this organization that has so consistently done wrong after we make the playoffs and we just blow up the team. And Barry Sanders in 98's like, forget this, I'm done. Right. Like that's what this organization's been. Kelvin Johnson's like, I'm done. I'm walking away. We're unwilling to keep the guys we need to. And now we have a completely different mindset. But
Yep.
in this video, we're still talking about the defensive line, Chris. So, and we've been talking about like, hey, who do you want to see in preseason? Like, are you excited about watching preseason? So as I show you this with all of our defensive linemen, give me one or two defensive linemen that you're most looking forward to seeing in the preseason this year, and throw it in the comments as well.
Yep, I think Levi is one that we've heard a lot of good things about. Guy that
Yep.
Brad Holmes drafted early on,
Before
second round.
Aleem.
Yes, second round pick in 2021. That we're like, all right, let's do this. I guess he's been what we thought he would be, and then I think the other one, James Houston. Like,
Okay.
James Houston just wasn't in the right spots when he was supposed to be. I think that's what I'm picking up on. And again, he was injured basically all last year, so it's hard. But
It's tough.
let's see if he's back. Let's see. Well, how about you?
Let's see. Yeah. So this is great. I actually have three totally different people.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to seeing Matthew Betts, like the CFL player. Can he actually hang at an NFL level? Like, is it just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're playing lesser competition, you're actually not that good? Or is it, no, this guy can win against anybody, and who knows, maybe he could be a force to be reckoned with in the future. I'm really looking forward to see him. I'm looking forward to see Mekhi Wingo. When we drafted him, it felt like a no-brainer, kind of like Christian Mahogany. I was like, this guy's going to have a role on this team. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do. At minimum, be a specialist. Like he could set the edge if he plays D end. He can rush the passer from the inside. If he's playing next to Aleem McNeil and McNeil's getting double teamed, he can more than hold his own water against a single team. Like, let's go. So I'm excited to see that. And then Josh Paschal. I don't know if Paschal will actually play much, but I'm excited to see what he does. It's time to take the next step. Last year was supposed to be the next step. It didn't quite happen. Now this year, it really, really should happen. It really should.
Oh no, I love that. And I agree. And I'm really excited about that. Can we switch gears for one last time here?
Do it.
All right, let's do it. So here's where I'm at. I'm a little nervous and I'm also a little excited, but the kicker position, I guess I'm surprised at how into this I have been. we haven't really settled on a kicker ever since Brad Holmes has been here. We kind of did. We traded guys, we released guys, we brought guys back, guys that we thought, man, he's really doing a good job. He gets replaced or vice versa. Just out of all the things that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have done, this has been the one just like, I'm not really following you. I'm kind of am, but I'm kind of not. And so now our starting kicker, Badgley, goes out or presumed. It was like, man, he's probably going to be the starting kicker. He injures himself. Now, the new guy that we bring in, Jake Bates, we're all excited about, but also it's kind of a weird story. He reportedly is not doing well. Suddenly, He's missing a lot. He's not consistent. And it's like, again, this wouldn't be that big of a deal. It would be, but I guess you're really seriously trying to go with a big playoff push, win the division, playoff push. Like, this is a really good team. You got to have a kicker. So what do you do? How concerned are you? I guess those are my two questions. How concerned are you? Then what do you do?
I don't know what you do. I do know what you do. I do. You go bring in Riley Patterson. Let's bring him back for a third time. I mean, he kicked for us for 10, 11 games last year, and you knew he couldn't kick a ball over 45 yards, but at least you knew he wouldn't miss a kick under 45 yards. So I answered your question in reverse, right? So what you do is, and I think he was let go by the Jags, so I do believe he is available. Part of this isn't our fault. Badgley was a good enough kicker to get us by. Like, he was a good enough kicker, and you had heard that his leg actually had gotten bigger. He was making longer kicks in practice. Like, he was actually doing well. And then you bring in Bates to compete with him, and now he gets hurt. And Bates in the most recent practice went like 6 of 12 or something like that.
Yeah, not like super long or anything either. Like,
no, he's missing extra points. He's missing mid-range. And that's, I think, the problem that we're seeing with Bates. And I think that was the main concern is, yeah, he's going to kick 60% from 55 plus, but what if he only kicks 70% from 40 and under?
Right. And I think another thing you can do is you can, look at guys that are going to get cut and really look at, everybody can't keep 2 kickers. You're going to get one. So there'll be,
and you're going to get a decent one too.
Yeah. There'll be 2 or 3, but then you bringing them in. And I heard this from Phipp, the special teams coach, and I thought it was really interesting. Every player goes through ups and downs. Kickers go through ups and downs, probably more than anybody. The problem is they're not as tight with the rest of the team. So when they go on their downs, they don't have the support from their teammates. They don't, there's not a lot of patience for kickers. And I get that. And again, it's the kind of the quirky thing of football that makes it all great. But so when they go down, it's hard to come back up, and they just lose confidence. But you're really good, and you're one of these premier kickers in the league. Those downs, man, those guys will help you, man. Hey, they've seen you execute at a high level. They love you. They blah, blah, blah. You're part of the team. But when you're this new guy, it's just hard. So again, no matter who we bring in, they're going to have that same thing. Nobody knows them. It's hard to get that camaraderie. It takes longer. You're not sweating next to the guy, playing D lineman. It's just like they're off on the side, just sitting there drinking water. It's just hard to get to close them. So again, you're bringing a new guy. That's cool. But the problem is they're just not, you wish you had a 4-year guy that everybody knew is coming back. That's such a different vibe than we're going to bring in a new guy. And I think we will. And I think it'll happen after cuts, because there will be a decent kicker that is cut. There are 20 kickers around the league. There are 20 teams that are very happy with their kicker, and they are going to release. There are going to be 3 or 4 of those teams that release a kicker that's better than any kicker that's left on the last 10 to 12 teams. Like, that's just the way it works. The question is, can we get him? Can we get that kicker? I don't know. I know. And it's like other teams are looking for them. Do they want to come here? Like, I don't understand how that fully works. And it sucks because you need, you just do. You need a kicker. Like, we're not going to be able, you got to have a steady kicker. And again, I don't think you're looking for someone to kick the ball long distances even. I think we're just like, all right, fine. We go for it in that 35-yard range whenever we can. That's not even a big deal, but I mean, you need somebody that can hit a 38-yarder, and
that'd be helpful.
Bates isn't doing it. So it's like, oh shoot, man.
So, but he can hit a 65-yarder.
Right. Oh my gosh. So it's like,
which is great, but like, if you can't trust him to kick a 38-yarder, are you really going to run him out there for a 60-yard field goal?
Right.
Like, you're not going to do that, right? But here's kind of how bad it is. Back in in late July, after Badgley got hurt, the Lions hosted 4 potential this was their 4 potential options for a workout, including Matt Amendola, Lucas Haversick, Matthew McCrane, and Andrew Zment. I don't know how to say that. You ever hear any of those guys?
No.
You think any of those are going to be an answer at kicker?
Oh, it's shocking how hard this has been to get a kicker. I don't.
We had one.
Mm.
We had Matt Prater. We just didn't want to pay him $3.5 million when we were paying Stafford and Goff in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we made the Stafford trade and we had all that dead money on the books, and it was like, hey, we're not going to compete. We'll get rid of our kicker. We don't need to pay a kicker right now, an aging kicker, and then go from there.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, talk about it. I have my thoughts on James Turner. So.
James Turner, interesting guy. I think he was doing good with us, but then we cut him right away because we could bring another guy. Then he goes and doesn't do well. So I have no idea. Like, I don't know what makes a good kicker. I don't know what you need to do. So it's tough. It's tough to know.
It's consistency, right? And like you look at James Turner, and he was somewhat consistent at Michigan. Somewhat consistent.
Yeah.
And not bad. Like, he was a good college kicker. He was. But you bring him in, he clearly was behind Badgley. So it's like, all right, let's bring in another guy to compete with Badgley. Like, James Turner wasn't touching him. So the Packers, I think, was it the Packers that brought him in? Packers or Vikings?
Packers. It was in the division.
Yeah. And he's been terrible.
Good.
Oh, he's been just as bad as Bates. So it's not like we're losing out. At first, I was like, oh no, Badgley. No, what about Turner? Bring him back. Nope. Not any good. So
it's just I don't know. I always thought, just in general, kickers were kind of a dime a dozen. I knew the elite ones, and that's fine. And you know, we had Jason Hansen, and we had Prater was even just like, man, really solid there for a few years. But
oh yeah, real solid.
And then I should know better, but no, yes, we get rid of Prater. Then I'm like, no big deal. Like, and then we go through. Remember that when we had those really bad kickers. Remember that overtime game or against the Steelers in that 2021, and we're just like, man, we're trying to win. We're just, he can't kick it. So you gotta have a
kick. And we did this too when Hansen retires and we drafted Freeze. Wasn't his name Freeze?
Yeah, something like that.
Which is funny because that kind of represented what he would do when he would kick. He was so bad. And like, we got, quite frankly, lucky because Prater got released from the Broncos because of alcohol. It was an alcohol related thing. I don't know if it was a DUI or what it was, but then we pick him up. He cleans himself up and was awesome for us. But I get what we were thinking. We're thinking we're not going to win like back in 2021. We're not going to win this year. He's aging. How long is he going to be good? We'll let him go, and then we'll figure out kicker in the next year. Yeah. It shouldn't be hard to find a good kicker. Apparently it is.
Dude, crazy. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We loved going live, and we want to know in the comments as we close here just what you're excited for in the preseason games and what you're going to be watching for, and let us know in the comments. And if you've been watching this far, make sure you subscribe. I mean, come on. If you've been watching this, you like us a little bit, enough to hit this a little bit. So yes, please do. Where's
like, remember Kickalicious? Yeah. That was hilarious. All right. Yeah, I'm with you there. And by the way, I just figured out who I'm most excited to watch in the preseason. It's Jake Bates, the kicker.
Oh, there you go.
You can tell when a guy kicks. You can tell if he's going to be a consistent kicker or not. You just know.
Yep.
You just know.
Jake Bates, Hendon Hooker. Let's go, baby. All right.
Let's go.
Let us know all of your thoughts in the comments, and man, we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you later.
All right. See ya.
See ya.